First, we're going to look at the definition of a word that most people don't know. And this word is honey trap. You're like, all right, DC, why are we doing word definitions? Let's look at the definition first. Honey trap, also known as honey pot. Noun, an investigative technique that tests the fidelity of a spouse or significant other by attempting to lure them into a romantic or liaison. That's not what we're talking about. You're like, okay, definition 2. A scenario in which espionage, whereby an agent enters into a romantic or sexual relationship with a civilian and seeks leverage that intimacy to coerce or blackmail the target to discover secret information. The key word in that is leverage. Now you're going to ask me, DC, what does that have to do with the cost of tea in China? All right, let's look at our first article because it's our oldest one. And it says, this from the Middle East Monitor. Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing politicians for Israel Mossad, new book claims. Right? In fact, this is 3 years old, almost 3 years to the day. Says the deceased American financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell were Israeli spies who used underage girls to blackmail politicians, and I will add other prominent people, into giving information to Israel, according to their alleged handler. The couple reportedly ran a honey trap operation in which they provided young girls to prominent politicians from around the world for illicit activities, and then used the incidents to blackmail them in order to obtain information for Israeli intelligence. The claims are being made by the alleged former Israeli spy Ari Ben Menashe in a soon-to-be-released book, Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Tales, in which he said he was the handler for Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, who was also an Israeli espionage agent and was one who introduced his daughter and Epstein, to Mossad. See, messing around is not a crime. Could be embarrassing, but it's not a crime, Menashe wrote in his book. But messing around with 14-year-old girls is a crime. And he was taking photos of politicians messing around with 14-year-old girls. And if you want to get it straight, they, Epstein and Maxwell, would just blackmail people like that. The handler, Ben Menashe, himself an Iranian-born Israeli businessman, who says he worked for Mossad from 1977 to 1987, is a mysterious figure who was arrested in 1989 in the U.S. on charges of arms dealing. He was acquitted in 1990, however, only after a jury accepted that he was acting on behalf of the state of Israel. Let's think about that. He was arrested in the United States, but because he was acting as an agent for Israel, he was acquitted. Take all the time you need to process that information. Israel then denied that Menashe has any links with his intelligence service and attempted to distance itself from him, despite the fact that other news reports, both in the US and Israel, confirmed that he was acting on the country's behalf. Let's stop right there. So this person, Ari Ben Menashe, it's been confirmed that he has connections with the Mossad, right? And he's saying that he was the handler for Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, right? And that he brought Ghislaine and Epstein into the business, right? Are we there? We follow this, right? Now, let's get back to the story. He says the new book, which also speculates that Maxwell may have worked for other governments as a double or triple agent, says that despite reports that Epstein and Maxwell met in the early 1990s in New York, They, in fact, met earlier through her father, who introduced Epstein to the Mossad before Ghislaine joined the activities later. Jeffrey Epstein, who was facing charges for sex trafficking minors, was found dead in his New York prison cell on the 10th of August. According to official reports, he committed suicide, but there's been much speculation and evidence put forward that he was in fact killed, with many stating he may have been assassinated due to his knowledge of the figures he blackmailed and the acts that he committed. I would say that not only that, but because of his connections to intelligence service. The statements made by Financier are so far unsubstantiated, but if proven true, they would provide significant evidence of Israel being involved in the blackmail of senior and prominent politicians and figures in the United States of America. This would only add to the state's already revealed track record of manipulating Western nations' political systems, as seen in the revelations of the Israeli lobby's attempt to take down British and U.S. politicians revealed in the past years, right? Now, here's like no one. I've been scanning the news services and all that. No one is talking about this aspect of the story. No one is talking about the obvious, right? The obvious ethnic background of Mr. Weinstein and Mr. Epstein. No one is talking about who Mr. Maxwell was, Ghislaine Maxwell's father. We just know that his name is Maxwell. And if you look it up, you see Robert Maxwell. But when you just actually go and look and say, well, all right, well, who is Robert Maxwell? You go here and it says, Ian Robert Maxwell was born Jan Ludwig Hyman Benjamin Hack. You like, wait, what? It says Robert Maxwell was born the 10th of June, 1923 into a poor Yiddish-speaking Orthodox Jewish family in the small town of Stastinsky Doli in the region of the Carpathian Ruthenia in Czechoslovakia. All right, brothers and sisters. So let's start counting. Robert Maxwell, small hat. Jeffrey Epstein, small hat. The guy Financier, small hat. Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously small hat. We're starting to get a clearer picture of where I will be going tonight. Right? So, let's go back here. It says, breaking, new batch of 17 exhibits from Epstein documents unsealed by court today. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to how this is written, because this is written very interestingly. Pay close attention, because I'm going to go back. Right? It says another drop of Epstein documents was released by the court on Monday, today. 17 exhibits were unsealed. Epstein victim Sarah Ransom said in 2016 emails to the New York Post editor Maureen Callahan that she had been sent footage by her friend showing her having relations with William Jefferson Clinton, Donald J. Trump, Richard Branson of Virgin Atlantic and all that. But Ransom added that she could not share the videos without her friend's consent. Now, y'all heard that part, right? Now, let's go a little further and see if that matches up with what we just read. Ransom wrote that her friend had to have relations with Clinton in Epstein's New York mansion just off of Fifth Avenue on numerous occasions. That she had them. With my friend had relations with Clinton, Prince Andrew, and Richard Branson. Tapes were in fact filmed on each separate occasion by Mr. Epstein. Stop right there. If Mr. Epstein was simply want his friends to party and have a good time, right? He wouldn't document it. But Mr. Epstein documented these interactions. If he documented these interactions, why? What was the key word in the honey trap? The key word was leverage. Remember this word, right? Because when we go from the financier, Jeffrey Epstein area, and we go to the smaller area, which is Hollywood and the music industry, remember that leverage word, because that's going to be a key to everything that we talk about tonight. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_one. And the Cashapp is $DcRadical1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for ODA and straight black pride.